Mindful Drawing. I'm Rooks Fun, and I'll be your guide on this weekly practice into bringing awareness to our creativity and mindfulness to our actions through drawing. This week's exercise was a good reminder for me that even when things are busy and when you feel a little overwhelmed, it's important to make some space for your own personal practice, your own self-care, and development of a routine that, whether or not you feel at the moment fit and ready to engage in it, can bring clarity, a little bit of space for relaxation, and hopefully encourage just a bit of creativity and expression. We'll start with a warm-up that brings us into a space of memory, of recording the movements of our body, of bringing them into the space of awareness, of sharing mindfulness for how we engage in the act of drawing, and then letting that continue on to take a life of its own, to move from the practice of a shape to the continued expression of that shape in new forms. We'll establish a territory, a network of lines, a sort of grid loosely on the paper, and explore through it to discover new shapes, new overlaps, and practice our awareness of our own technique of drawing, see where that might lead us. These exercises are always aimed at anyone from any level, whether you're a student learning to design and draw, or a hobbyist just looking for some new mindful practice, or someone who's been following along for a while. Thank you. But you don't need much, just a pen or pencil, some pad of paper, scratch, notebook, card, whatever it might be, even the back of an envelope, in about 20 to 30 minutes of your time just to be present and engage in this act of mindful drawing. So grab your stuff, get ready, establish your space, and let's draw together. This week I thought I would look at a little bit of a, kind of a memory drawing game exercise. Since I'm overburdened in my schedule and have trouble remembering things, maybe it'll help. But more of shapes and letting shapes record into our actions and then extend out and become kind of free on their own through what is imprinted in our memory. So maybe a quick warm-up to think through it, and then we'll look at a larger format. Drawing any kind of shape, maybe something kind of a square, trapezoid, triangle, circle, whatever it might be, onto a piece of scrap paper, and then spending a few moments working around that shape, just bringing it into your focus, your attention, bringing it into the memory of your hand in that location, in that sequence of movement, looking for consistency in what you move. Are you more engaged with the wrist, the fingers? Is the whole arm sliding around? And these successive revolutions imprinting something of this shape's action into the mind and into the body's mind and memory. And what we'll do a lot of through the practice is to take that imprint, rotate yourself or the paper, and follow it again in a different orientation or just location. And the two shapes might be slightly different, will likely be slightly different every time, but following the same actions, seeing how that difference continues the life of that shape and starts to form overlaps and complexity there on the page. That's kind of the gist of what we'll go through in the exercise to begin with, to give ourselves a place to start in that finding of shapes I think we can establish some form of network or grid as a way to get into our breath and into our position of drawing at the body. This doesn't have to be rectilinear, it can be at fun angles, it can be curvy, but a bunch of crossing lines to create some kind of field. So I'll just begin anywhere that feels comfortable on the page, taking a breath in to establish some position, and on the way out, just letting it cross through that open, empty space of the page, being as straight or wobbly as you like, or as suits your position of drawing. And on the next breath, a location not too far away, following a similar path. And again, a little wobble, a little angle, something to explore and play with each breath. Breathing in to reposition, and out to track across that open territory of the page. And we'll do a few of these in whatever current direction you may be drawing in, and feel free to play and explore. The lines don't have to remain parallel. They can cross if you like. They can meander a bit. We're really just using our breath in to find place, and the breath out to come into some connection with the movement of our hand and arm, with that rhythm internally of our body's expansion and contraction. And as one direction of the page may begin to fill or run out of space to move, we can start crossing, again, a general network or idea of a grid on the same. Breathing into position, finding that place and out. Now cross through the initial network of lines. Working from one direction across to the other, but you can feel free to explore going in multiple directions, back and forth. Playing maybe a little bit in the breath with how you hold the pen or pencil. Just letting it feel different in the hands. And the grid could be regular, tight, sporadic, loose. Establishing that regulated territory onto the paper through our breath and our exploration of the tools. Removing some of that daunting emptiness of the blank page with a procedure to follow before an influence of speculation or overthinking. But if your paper is beginning to fill in, you can always continue to add density, find places to explore in the network to provide moments of emphasis, doubling, thickening. We'll begin to transition to the next phase where we started in the warm-up, and can begin simply choosing any rectangular-ish space that calls your eye. Taking a breath in and deliberately finding the corner of beginning. Maybe sit with it for a moment. And on the next breath, begin to trace around that shape. Just noticing when the out breath finishes and the in breath returns. And after a revolution, resetting through a few rounds of this, bringing our attention to a new mode of drawing. Breathing in, establishing out as we track around that shape. And finding what the natural rhythm is relative to your space, the size of the drawing, the speed that you're moving. You may breathe in along one line and out along the next. Or perhaps you can make it all the way around with one flowing out breath. Whatever works for you. And once we've made a few revolutions, again bringing something of that shape into our space, body, memory. Shift it over, turn it sideways, but begin again with the starting point. Track along with the same breath rhythm. And create that shape superimposed outside of its original space in the network. And work around it a few times. Just keeping that rhythm of the breath. Finding a pace you can sustain without over-oxygenating, holding in. When you feel ready, you can move to another region. It can go beyond a single space, could track around a more complex collection of them. Keep it simple and stick with the regions that call your eye. Whatever shape you choose to work with, find that continued rhythm of the breath, of breathing in, followed by breathing out. Each one a rhythm or portion of the action. They can remain continuous, or take a pause between revolutions around that shape. And when you feel ready, either in a place of play or a place of consistency, take the same shape and begin to superimpose it somewhere else, near or far, rotated or parallel. And in practice of each of these, as we get the rhythm of the exercise and the hang of working with these shapes, try to keep in your attention, in your mindfulness, the place of beginning, the direction of the breath, the pacing of your action. And know from time to time you make a different starting or different rhythm, and see if each one can be a practice in having that awareness of how you are creating, how you are interacting with the page, a focusing in of our attention, that momentary space of awareness around how we move to express. You begin to work through the paper, the page at your own rate, shifting from single regions to larger ones if you like, or sticking with individual spaces, whole rows, whatever might draw your eye in. For that time of recording, of translating from the physical out in the space into that virtual holding in your mind. In the repetitions, marking out the shape, does it begin to form itself as an image behind your eyes? Or perhaps it's just the action of the hand. Noticing how your own interface develops with the visual medium here. Some perhaps direct, what you see is what you get. Some distorted, depending on your position, your point of view, the motion of your hands, or the internal speed and rhythm of your breath in the body. All pieces working together, and we have some time here to observe them, to have some mindful influence over them, to bring attention to that practice of drawing. A time for slowing and being with yourself in that interface with the page. And there's no goal or advanced objective to the pacing, the speed, the number of shapes extracted and moved around, but you can begin to experiment with, or even sink into whatever natural rhythm your body is finding there. Perhaps it's a consistent number of revolutions to record the shape in your mind, and a consistent number to let that shape reposition, transpose in a new place, orientation, even a new size. Each one the same shape, slightly different, but following the same action of drawing. The same local influence of your position, your hand, the paper, the subtle changes in the network below, making each moment different, guided by the technique of the practice. And if your breath begins to fall back to a more normal rhythm, just let it drift into the background as your foreground attention can come more to the way you're moving, could come more into your eyes as they make possible connections, corners crossing, providing subtle variation to the shapes. Attention to the directions that you draw might seem influenced by where the thing is on the page. The counterclockwise to the left side, and a clockwise to the right. Just an observation, a little bit of play in how our mind engages with this visual field. And now that we've been working with it for a while, we can begin to open up that space. What has our internal pattern matching, perhaps our creative influence, or just attention drifting, inform about ways we could change the shapes, stretch them, make them larger or smaller, play with multiple repetitions, bringing more disruption to the regularity of the grid, bringing more change and distortion to the shapes. Each beginning from that recording into the body, mind, memory, and then extending into how we transform memory, subtle changes, misrememberings, or storytellings. The extraction of patterns or lessons. You can revisit existing shapes, perhaps ones that call your eye with interest, further emphasizing them through the repetition, extending them, practicing that transformation ability. And depending on the size of your paper, if things begin to get crowded, dense, and overlapped, we can use that in the closing exploration. If you have a lot of room to keep going, feel free at any pace to continue working by moving and changing these shapes from your memory filling out more of the void. But we can also look for new conditions in the spaces of overlap, of intersection, and spend a few minutes just exploring in the field or territory that you've created. I think I might switch from pen to pencil, but whatever you have at hand is fine. Just begin to outline or shade areas that stand out, perhaps the strange, more complex intersections between the overlaps, or the wandering new shapes between the starting points. Paths emerging. Whatever starts to stand out to your vision. And just draw with it for a few minutes. As you find yourself in a space of a creative flow or exploration, keep some attention on your breath. Are you breathing? Are you holding anything in? Is it short? And try to guide it back to regular. Not too deep, not too shallow. Just supporting the body action. As we approach the end of the timing of the practice, take a few more deliberate breaths to recenter the body, to bring yourself back into the space around you. You can continue to draw through those breaths or place the pencil down, just close the eyes and spend a few moments being just with where you are after the practice. A deep breath in, letting the bones fall into a relaxed position. A deep breath in, letting the eyes soften a bit. A deep breath in, relaxing any tension that may have formed in the hands, holding the pen or pencil, being used for this time and interface with the tool. A deep breath in to share some gratitude for a moment of rest and relaxation and maybe potential creative expression. And using those breaths wherever you might be throughout the day, you can always come back to them and find a stable base, maybe draw a few lines, or just re-engage with whatever we're doing. I'm grateful that I had some time today to do this practice and to share that with the people who join live, Be Mindful perhaps, or anyone who finds this, whether on Twitch or here on YouTube every week. I needed that moment of clarity, some time to just draw with myself, to walk through the stages of coming into awareness, aligning with my breath and the motions and rhythms of my body, and then to just open that up into a free territory for some creativity and exploring through this act of drawing. And I hope this can bring you the same release, expression, creativity, or even just a little relaxation as you either start one of your days or end your evening with an act of mindful drawing. any kind of regular practice in some form of mindfulness where we get to step back from ourselves, where we get to find our own attention, witness, and hopefully release from judgment what we might be doing there, whether it's breath counting, journaling, or this drawing exercise here. Just as a moment to be in the space, to be present with time, and to find something new. If you liked what you see here, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below how you felt through the exercise, or maybe what you created from it. You can always find me at Rooks is Fun on Instagram and join in each week for new expressions of mindful drawing. Thank you. This is Rooks is Fun, signing off.